Hi, welcome. Enjoy the content, subscribe, and turn on notifications.
Brandon always had a very clear idea of what he wanted in life. From a young age, he carried a simple yet increasingly rare desire: to build a true family. The kind you look at and feel proud of. Where there's partnership, love, respect, and security. He was always that kind of man. The kind who believes in the value of commitment, who sees marriage as more than just a beautiful ceremony or a piece of paper. For him, it was a symbol. A pact that went beyond words. It was about putting out into the world, in a clear way, that this love had an owner, had responsibility, that it was something to be nurtured every single day. When he met Sophie, everything seemed to make sense. She was fun, charismatic, with a smile that made any worry disappear. She was the kind of woman who could walk into any place and, within minutes, everyone would be charmed. Brandon fell in love quickly, and he fell hard. In the first few months, everything was perfect. They went out together, planned trips, laughed at silly things, spent nights talking about life, dreams, and the future. And it was during these conversations that he noticed something that bothered him more than he cared to admit. Every time the topic of marriage came up, Sophie would dodge it. She'd change the subject, make a joke, steer the conversation elsewhere. Over time, what seemed like just a playful avoidance took on a more serious tone. She started making it clear that she didn't care much for marriage. She said it was something society imposed, just a piece of paper, and that true love didn't need those kinds of ties. That what mattered was living together, the connection, not a signature. Brandon, at first, tried not to dwell too much on it. He convinced himself that she just needed time. After all, they loved each other, and that was obvious. He believed that as the years went by, she would understand that formalizing their love wasn't about pressure but about care, about protection. That it was about them, about what they were building together, not about pleasing the outside world. Time passed, and despite his efforts to avoid it, that issue started weighing heavily on him. Watching his friends getting married, some starting families, others buying houses, building things together, made him question whether he was heading in the right direction. Because, although their life together was good, it always felt like something was missing. It was as if he was giving everything he had, betting all his chips on that love, and in return, he was only receiving part of what Sophie was willing to give, on her own terms and within her limits. And even though she made it clear that she loved him, that she wanted to be with him, every time he brought up the subject, her response was always the same. Something like, "Why do you need this? What changes? We already live like we're married." And deep down, this hurt more than he admitted. Because it wasn't just about wanting a party or status. It was about feeling that she was willing to commit in the same way he was. About knowing that their love was strong enough to declare to the world, not just lived secretly behind closed doors. Still, Brandon chose to keep moving forward. Because for him, loving also meant giving in. It meant understanding that people aren't exactly how we wish they were. That everyone has their traumas, fears, and experiences. And because he believed Sophie was the woman of his life, he decided to wait. To wait for her to realize on her own, in her own time, that marriage wasn't a prison or an imposition. It was just confirmation that they were walking together, toward the same place, with the same dreams and purposes. The problem was that while Brandon believed this, Sophie had a completely different perspective. And little by little, what was hope for him became a burden for her. Something she needed to avoid, run away from, pretend didn't exist. And without Brandon noticing, that love he treated as a priority, Sophie was starting to put on the back burner. She began valuing her own freedom, her own desires, her belief in living without constraints. And that's when, without realizing it, she started making decisions that would sooner or later have devastating consequences. Decisions that, once revealed, would completely change the course of both their lives. And there would be no going back. Brandon was in another state, focused on important training for his career, when he received a message that froze his entire body. It was from Sophie. Short, direct, and completely out of context. She wrote only that she needed to talk, that she had made a mistake, that she didn't know how to tell him. For a few seconds, he thought it might be some misunderstanding, maybe a silly argument, a work problem, something simple that she was exaggerating. But deep down, he knew it wasn't. His heart raced. His hands started sweating. His head felt heavy, as if suddenly a million thoughts were crashing into each other. He tried calling her, but she didn't answer. He sent a message, and she only replied that it was serious and that it had to be in person. At that moment, he didn't think twice. He interrupted everything he was doing, told his supervisor he needed to handle an urgent matter, and caught the first flight back home. The trip felt endless. His chest tightened as if every minute of waiting was torture. Brandon tried to mentally prepare for anything, but no matter how many scenarios he imagined, none came close to what he was about to hear. As soon as he arrived, he opened the door, looked around, and noticed something strange in Sophie's eyes. She was restless, pacing back and forth, fidgeting with her hands, breathing heavily. She wouldn't even look directly at him. It was as if she wanted to be anywhere but there. Brandon realized immediately that this wasn't just a casual conversation. He asked what was happening, urging her to be direct. And she was. With a shaky, trembling voice, she let out the words that shattered everything inside him. She said she was pregnant. But before he could even react, she added, the baby wasn't his. The silence that followed felt suffocating. Brandon stared at her, trying to process it. For a few seconds, he stood completely still, staring, hoping she would say it was a lie, some cruel joke, that she had lost her mind, anything that could make it not real. But Sophie was serious, nervous, tears welling up in her eyes, waiting for his reaction. She then revealed that, a few months ago, during a period when things between them had been somewhat distant, she ended up getting involved with a coworker. His name was Derek. At first, according to her, it was just an exchange of messages, silly conversations, venting about life. And before she knew it, they were meeting outside of work hours. She said it all happened quickly, that she let herself get carried away, that she didn't plan it, that she didn't know how it had gotten to this point. Brandon listened to everything in silence. He didn't interrupt. He just looked at her, with a mix of disbelief, disappointment, and pain that felt too big to contain. Each word coming out of her mouth felt like a blade cutting through him. And when she finished speaking, he simply took a deep breath, turned his back, went upstairs, entered the guest room, grabbed a pillow, a blanket, and lay down. He didn't have the strength to argue, to fight, or to try to understand anything more. It was as if, within minutes, everything they had built together had been thrown in the trash. And he didn't even know how to react. His mind spun, his stomach churned, and his chest hurt like never before. That night, lying there, staring at the ceiling, Brandon mentally replayed every detail of the past few years. The conversations, the plans, the promises. He tried to figure out when it all started to fall apart. He searched for signs, clues, anything that might have shown that Sophie was willing to throw it all away. And as much as he searched,